Hey everybody, it's Charlie. We got to break down the Flash 100th episode. There were so many Easter eggs, and they paid off so many ongoing plot lines, confirming big Reverse Flash theory. So we'll do a new round of that Flash ring giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave your favorite moment on the video. Careful for spoilers. If you haven't seen the episode yet, obviously, we'll be talking about very specific stuff. So we'll go through top 10 WTF and comic book Easter eggs. So many comic book Easter eggs. Starting with number 10, the intro. They decide to try and capture Cicada at his hospital. Nora's reading her book. They sort of set up that Sherlock plotline with paying off what the book is all about, what she's really doing, where it's all going. So they did a pretty good job of presenting you with enough information to decode how things were going to end before you get that final end credits scene with Reverse Flash showing up. The whole idea here is that Nora seems to have really convenient ideas, and at various points this season, they've referred to her being a very clever girl, so that's just a recurring motif. And the fact that they mentioned it so many times in this episode, and the people that mentioned it, like Reverse Flash, then Sherlock later in the episode, just confirmed that they were going to pay off a big Reverse Flash twist. Number 9, the plan. So they need to get a strong alloy, Savitar's suit, Zoom's Speed Force siphoning device, and the very specific type of dark matter that was created when they blew up the particle accelerator the first time. So that just provides the points at which he goes back to the past. Although there was a fourth time that they went back to at the very end of the episode where Nora goes back to watch his parents have a happy moment. I realize based on the twist at the end of the episode, it presents her as being more sinister because she's doing something bad, but I think that she's doing it for a good reason. It's just that she's very naive and she's being manipulated by the Reverse Flash. Number 8 was Elongated Man's appropriate use of Back in Time by Huey Lewis from Back to the Future. If you've never heard me talk about it before, Nora is kind of like a Marty McFly situation. They name drop Marty McFly in the first episode. She could Marty McFly herself out of existence. And a lot of times when describing the tone of the Flash, people refer to Back to the Future. So it's kind of a comedy, lighthearted, time travel style story. But a really big seed that they planted for the future. Number 7, Cisco gives Barry an upgraded version of the Flash ring. He says he made some modifications, but did not say what those modifications were. We probably won't find out about that till after the crossover, because on Sunday, the Flash episode of Elseworld starts, and we get 3 episodes, then we go back to normal with episode 10 after the big break in January. It might have something to do with putting the chin back on his costume, but I expect there to be a couple surprises with the Flash ring when we come back in episode 10. I'm not really expecting them to move the plot forward on the Flash TV show that much during the Elseworlds episodes. I think those will be relatively self-contained. 6, Barry and Nora versus Savitar. So obviously there was a lot that happened when they were going back in time to each of these places. In the time stream, they get visions like they always do, but typically what happened is when they would go back to, say, season 3 to get the Savitar suit, they would see scenes from season 4. So every time they went back further in time, they played scenes from the preceding season. So when they went back to see Zoom, they played scenes from season 3, and back to season 1, they played scenes from season 2, and so on and so forth. I wasn't really sure how they were going to film all these new scenes of them back in the past, because we knew that Savitar would come back, we knew that Zoom would come back, we knew that Reverse Flash would come back, and what they did is they shot a little bit of new footage with the characters and just spliced that in with clips from previous seasons. So when they're doing this here, they're basically doing green screen with Nora and Barry, and they just jammed that on top of a clip from season 3. They didn't completely reshoot all these scenes, but they did a really good job with the editing. I think they spent the least amount of time in season 3 with Savitar and then with Zoom again, so that when they went back to talk to Reverse Flash, they could spend more time in those scenes to set up the big payoff at the end of the episode. But number 5, Barry and Nora versus Zoom, so they shot a little bit of new footage. Harrison Wells comes in, Barry gives him the idea that will help them find Jesse Quick to sort of keep him from destroying that device. That was the idea that he came up with during season 2. So it's not like Barry is making a really big change to the timeline. He's just giving him an idea that he had already come up with. But that message that Nora wrote at the end of the episode, the timeline is malleable, just lets you know that the butterfly effect will be worse for some things than others. So that's why it's okay for Barry to tell Harrison Wells that. It was really fun to see Zoom catch them. This is a new scene, so a lot of this is old scenes from season 2 with them spliced in, but they did shoot some new scenes with Zoom, so the actor Teddy Sears did come back to shoot this, which is really cool. The funny thing about that is it also lets you know that he can sense the Speed Force in other people the same way that the Reverse Flash did way back in the pilot episode when they travel back to get the dark matter. Like he's getting ready to press the button but stops for a second because he kind of senses the Speed Force nearby. The funny thing about them traveling back and trying to escape Zoom though is that the time wraith that's been chasing them also catches Zoom like it did at the end of season 2. I'm assuming that this time wraith does not kill him. He's able to escape with his life barely, but then goes on to continue doing what he was doing during the end of season 2 and then becomes the Black Flash. So even though it seems like they're really messing with the timeline here with this particular scene, I think that the explanation is that he got away. Number 4, Barry and Nora versus the Reverse Flash. This is probably my favorite time that they went back to, just because of the way the Reverse Flash reacts to them and all the Easter eggs that he drops. Probably more Easter eggs per scene than we got in any other episode. So 1, he names off a whole bunch of female speedsters trying to guess who Nora is. He says Jesse Chambers, that's Jesse Quick. Libby Lawrence was Jesse Quick's mother. She went by the name Liberty Bell and wore this costume that you see. Then he names off Danica Williams, who's the Flash of the Batman Beyond timeline. So some of them older speedsters, some of them future speedsters. Maybe we'll see Danica Williams Batman Beyond stuff in future seasons, who knows? But anytime they name drop stuff like that, they usually find a way to pay it off down the road. The even bigger info bomb that he drops is Thawne calls her Dawn, I believe it is, and she says, no, my name is Nora, and then he chuckles and says, well, at least you still have one, essentially meaning that he's confirming the Tornado twins for later this season, meaning that Nora should have been a twin, but the timeline changed because of something that Nora did. So maybe they fix the timeline by the end of the season and we get our Tornado twins Dawn and Dawn back and they pay off that Barry gibberish from the beginning of season 4 where he says, we're going to need more diapers, because then they would have twins instead of just having Nora. So you can thank the Reverse Flash in the future from that 2049 date where Nora runs to for probably precipitating a lot of this stuff happening. You start to notice, though, some of the weird ways that Reverse Flash thinks about Nora. It seems like he gets some ideas in his head, calls her a clever girl. He recognizes that the plan to use Savitar's suit is crazy advanced, maybe something that only he would come up with. Then suddenly he looks at Nora and it's almost like he realizes that he's actually talking to himself in the future. Like, oh, I sense that I'm doing this from some other future timeline. So he's kind of laughing to himself, knowing that he's going to get the better of Barry on, like he knows something that Nora's doing that Barry doesn't. 3, Barry and Nora go back to the night Barry got his powers. They see the explosion. She almost touches Grodd through the cage. Don't touch that. And they shot a whole bunch of new footage with Caitlin and Cisco. They even made a reference to the night that Reverse Flash killed Cisco. Like they pair them off. They're standing in the same configuration that they were when he killed him. And he raises his hand up and then it turns into like this funny fist bump handshake. They even included some footage of Ronnie too. And even Caitlin in the future, recognizing that they would go back to that night, is like, oh yeah, they're going to be seeing Ronnie. So you get to see her be a little sad about him for a second. They enter the time vault and drop a whole bunch more Easter eggs. They got Morena Baccarin to come back and record new voiceover dialogue for this version of Gideon. She knows who Nora is and says that she's the 5th recruit of the Legion of Superheroes. I mean, it gets cut off, but it's also a reference to the first time that Barry learned about Gideon, and she almost tells Barry that he's a member of the Justice League in the future. Really awesome foreshadowing moment with Nora trying to touch Reverse Flash's suit. Like, you can sense that she's fascinated with him. I wasn't expecting as big of a payoff as we got in the episode, but this was probably enough clues to tell us that she was involved with him in some way. Number 2, Team Flash takes down Cicada with the help of Caitlin. I thought it was funny that their little device, I mean, it works, but it doesn't work because he's able to recall the dagger from outer space because he's gotten so powerful. But they do make the mental note that maybe Killer Frost is the key to defeating Cicada. So just keep that in the back of your mind. They won't come back to that till the second half of the season in January. Number 1, though, they finally pay off Nora's diary and the person she's communicating to in the future. Never mind, I'll go tell him myself. So she's been communicating with Reverse Flash in the year 2049, and it seems like either she or someone else has captured him, thrown him in Iron Heights prison. But even though they didn't completely explain what's going on here, I think what happened is in the future, Nora sensed that he was smart enough to help her try and save Barry from Crisis on Infinite Earths, because that's her real mission this season, to try and find a way to save Barry from disappearing or dying in 2024. So she probably went to a different time period to get Reverse Flash's help, and he consequently is probably trying to manipulate her so that it will change the timeline in a way that will benefit him. To make another Cisco pun, the vibe they're also going for is Silence of the Lambs, with Clarice, Nora, talking to Reverse Flash, Hannibal Lecter, behind the glass. Quid pro quo, I tell you something, you tell me something. So what happened at the end of Silence of the Lambs? Hannibal Lecter escaped prison. So just expect Reverse Flash to break out sometime during the back half of the season. Let me know in the comments though, what do you guys think Reverse Flash's true plan is, and what was your favorite moment from the episode? There was a new Elseworlds trailer. I'll do a breakdown of that tomorrow morning. We're also supposed to get an Avengers 4 trailer later this week and a Spider-Man Far From Home trailer. So I'll just update people on the schedule as I post videos, and I'll name a winner when I post that new Elseworlds trailer. Click here for my brand new Captain Marvel trailer, and click here for that brand new Elseworlds trailer. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.